Hello and welcome back to the Cupcake Jemma channel. I'm here at home because I'm cooking the books again, and this time I'm baking from this. One Bake, Two Ways by Ruby Bogal. I actually don't know if I've said that right. I've never met Ruby, or Rubes as she likes to be called, but you might remember her from, I think it was 2018's Great British Bake Off. She was a finalist. She has released this book, and it's one that's been needed for a while, I think, because what this book does, One Book, Two Ways, is it gives a plant-based recipe for each recipe in here. There's 50 bakes, each with regular ingredients and then with vegan or plant-based ingredients as well, which is great because I'm constantly getting asked, can I make this vegan? What can I substitute this for? And so Ruby's done that for you. I mean, there's 50 recipes in here. They're all great. They're all quite involved. I'm gonna try the plant-based cherry and chocolate Maritozzi. So there's a helicopter swirling around my house. Hopefully they're not after me. But anyway, I thought I'd give that a go. And I'm making it vegan, this one, because I feel like I know how to make bread and enriched doughs, but I've never tried it vegan. So I thought that might be interesting, and I thought you'd like to see that as well. So here we go. I started by making the Tangzhong. So in a small saucepan, I just poured my soy milk and added the flour, and then I used a balloon whisk just to mix that until it was completely smooth. Then I placed it over a medium heat, and you need to cook the flour out until it forms a thick paste. Now this took me a lot less time than I was anticipating, so it really thickened up quickly. Transfer it to a bowl to cool to room temperature. And now you need to activate your yeast. I am using active yeast, but it's a good idea to do this just to make sure your yeast is still alive. All you need to do is add your yeast to some lukewarm soy milk, so mine was about 30 degrees, and then just give it a little wiggle, and hopefully, if your yeast is alive, it'll be bubbly and frothy. Next, in the bowl of your mixer, add the strong bread flour, the cocoa powder, sugar, salt, and the applesauce and Tangzhong to the bowl. And lastly, add the yeast mixture. Now don't forget, all the ingredients and measurements are in the description box below, or of course in Ruby's book. Put that on to mix on a low speed for a few minutes. Once it's had a few minutes and it's all hydrated, you can get that mixing again on a low speed for 6 or 7 minutes until the dough starts to come away from the sides and is smooth. Now at this point, Ruby recommends you stop mixing and let the dough just sit for like 5 minutes for the flour to like hydrate. I've never done that before, but I'm gonna do it because I'm following the instructions like a good girl. Now it's time to add the plant-based butter, which should be nice and soft when you add it. Add it a little bit at a time while the dough hook is still going round on a slow speed. It will look a bit weird at first, but eventually it all incorporates, I promise. Well, I don't know if you can hear me over the sound of this intense mixing, but I actually broke from the recipe because Ruby's recipe recommends you mix it at a low speed, and I've never done that before with bread. And when I checked it after the 10 minutes, there was just absolutely no gluten. It wasn't stretchy in any way, it was just kind of wet. I thought perhaps maybe it was the plant-based butter that I used, because they also really vary. But I just thought I'd whack up the speed, and I've been mixing it at high speed now for about 10 minutes, and we are much better now. As you can see, we've got, I mean, it still is a quite sticky dough, but it's much more glutinous, and I can do a window pane test. That is actually pretty good. I'm pleased with that. I'm gonna put this into, I've got a grease bowl here. Ooh, oh my gosh. There we go. So I'm really lucky because I've got a proving setting in my oven. I'm going to just cover this with cling film, put it in there. You can just put this in a warm spot. I'm going to leave that for 2 to 2.5 minutes, wait for it to double in size. I'm a bit worried, it's super hydrated. It's going to be really hard to handle, but let's just roll with it. My dough really grew, guys. I was very proud. So on a floured worktop, scrape all the dough out, and then just using your fingers and your hands, just knock the air out a little bit. And then roughly roll it into a chubby log. Then use a bench scraper or a knife if you don't have one to divide the dough into around 10 portions. And then to roll these portions into nice tidy balls, pinch all the edges into the center with your fingers. Then put the pinched side down onto the worktop. You can form it into a ball by lightly creating a sort of cage around the ball with your fingers and just moving your hand in circles on top of the worktop. And you'll eventually see the top of the ball will become smoother and tighter as the dough is moved around. If it feels like your worktop is too floury and they're not getting that tension you need, just use a dough scraper to scrape away some of the sticky dough or flour and kind of start again. Continue to roll your balls, and when they're done, space them out onto a couple of lined baking trays ready for the second proof. Right, I've balled all my balls and now they need their second proof, so I'm going to cover them in cling film, pop them into the oven again for about 45 minutes to puff up. While my balls are proving, I am going to make the jam. Now, the book calls for maraschino or amarena cherries. I had this jar of amarena cherries. They are these things. You can get them from Italian delis. There's also another brand called Luxardo who make maraschino cherries, and they have that very, very typical cherry flavored flavor. And that jar, I've had it for, I'm gonna say like maybe 3 or 4 years. And they're absolutely fine because they're so syrupy, and I've kind of been waiting for a moment to use them, but I didn't have enough. So I'm gonna see what happens when I put this. I got the mother load still of strawberries to use up from my strawberry picking that I did with Eden about 1 million years ago. So basically I've made it up to 500 grams with the cherries that I had and the strawberries. Now, these cherries are slightly dehydrated, or not dehydrated, but they've had all the kind of liquid drawn out of them in the sugar. So I'm not sure how this is gonna go. It might not work out as the recipe planned because the recipe just has cherries, a little bit of the syrup and a squeeze of lemon juice. Obviously, strawberries have a lot of juice. I'm gonna get the strawberries going first. Maybe I won't, maybe I'll just put it all in. Along with a squeeze of lemon, but I forgot to cut it, so I'll be back. Just gonna let that do its thing. I let my fruit heat up on a low, medium heat, and once my strawberries had defrosted, I got in there with my potato masher just to break them up a bit. Then I let that simmer away, stirring it every now and then until it was nice and jammy. When you're satisfied with the consistency of your jam, turn off the heat and transfer it to a bowl. When my dough balls had had about 45 minutes proving, they were lovely and plump and jiggly. So I got on with brushing the tops of them with maple syrup. If you're making these non-vegan, of course, you would maybe do an egg and milk wash, but these are plant-based, so maple syrup it is. And once all of my balls were glazed, I put them into my preheated oven, which was supposed to be 160 degrees C in my fan-assisted oven, but I misread the recipe, and so it was actually 180, and I've only just realised, but actually they all came out fine. So I dodged a bullet there. Please excuse the state of my oven as well. So they're baked. They smell really good. They're really soft. I'm a little bit worried because they seem to be shrinking a little bit. Maybe they'll stop, I don't know, but anyway, this is my ball. Ooh, that's hot. So I'm just gonna wait for them to cool down a little bit, and then I'm gonna transfer them to a wire rack to cool, and then I'm gonna get on with whipping my vegan cream. Mind blown. Now my Maritozzi have cooled down. I've been to collect Eden from nursery. Hi, Eden. And now I'm going to whip the cream. Now, I've never used vegan cream before. I'm using this, it's Oatly. Oatly whippable creamy oat. I've heard great things about it, so I'm gonna give it a go. So into your plant-based cream, sift the icing sugar to get rid of any lumps. Then add some good quality vanilla extract and get whipping on a low speed. So while this is going around, whipping up, I am going to just, oi, get your little hand away from that camera, madam. No! I'm gonna cut the bread and I'll show you how to do it. Hello! I'm gonna start there at the top and work my way down to the kind of opposite corner. Now I know that obviously a circle doesn't have corners, but the main thing is you don't want to go all the way to the edge because you want to get that hinge. And look at that inside. The cream takes a little while, so just keep splitting all your chocolate buns in that way while your cream whips up. I got on with putting the cherry and strawberry jam into my buns and trying to keep even away from them.
Yum!
So I'm just taking a spoonful of the jam and spreading it just on the bottom half of the buns.
Got to do that one. No, don't do.
I am actually really impressed with this cream. This oat cream, like it's whipped up so beautifully.
Can you try some?
Yeah, here you go. Once your cream is perfectly whipped, you can put it into a piping bag. To fill your Maritozzi, put the piping bag right into the hinge where the split is, and then pipe back and forth until you've filled it up. And then you're going to smooth that out and get rid of any excess using a palette knife, just to get that classic Maritozzi look.
Whoa!
And then just keep going with all your buns until you fill them all up to bursting. Oi. Okay, we finished. Let's have a go. I have to cut this in half because my daughter, Eden, is waiting patiently for this. Aren't you, mate?
Yeah, and we have to share.
We have to share. Here's my bit. What do you think? I'm getting a thumbs up. There's a lot of cream around your face. That is actually delicious. You'd never know that was vegan. It's so light. This dough is so soft, and it tastes really rich, even though we haven't used butter or milk. We've used plant-based alternatives. And yet it's light, it's spongy. It's got a really nice bounce back. I feel like the only thing that would improve this is some kind of chocolate glaze. Because even though the dough is chocolatey, it just could be chocolatier, you know? But it's lovely. Well, I've got 7% of my battery on my camera left. So all that remains to say is that please give this a go. If you're not vegan, this book is great for you. If you are vegan, this is great for you too. A lot of these recipes are quite involved. Like, there's quite a lot of processes, especially with the plant-based ones. Like, you have to make quite a lot of bits and bobs. I mean, I can't really talk because the Crumbs and Doilies book is also like that. You have to do quite a lot of prep in advance, but the recipes in here are delightful. There's things like homemade Nutella, malt tiramisu with milk chocolate, or peach and amaretto cheesecake, jellies, lemon meringue pies, cookies. There are some simple recipes that don't take ages. I think for this is a bit more of a project book, especially if you're doing the vegan versions, but it is lovely. And Ruby writes with a real sense of humour. I don't know if you've ever seen her before. She's got an Instagram account and she's hilarious, and she really doesn't take herself too seriously, which is great because there's a lot of serious people out there. I really like this book. One bake, two ways. Check it out. Okay. Check it out. Let me know what you think if you've got it as well. And thanks so much, Ruby. This is a corker. Well done. Oh, cream. Cream on the floor. Whoopsie. You're not allowed that because it's on the floor.